Hi, my name is Carl Pearson, and I'm creating this video to explain why small business needs a lobby in Washington, D.C., how such a lobby could get started, and what the lobby should try to accomplish. The name of this video is Small Business and Its Dependents Need a Washington Lobby. I changed it from NRA type lobby because of the recent publicity about NRA. It was quite effective for years. It now seems to be falling apart, thank God. Anyway, I'm 83 years old, a practicing foreclosure defense attorney in the heart of New York, which is the coronavirus capital of the U.S. and probably the world. I'm a high school dropout, a graduate of Harvard Law School, and have been a small business person for 74 years. Today is my 47th day of self-imposed quarantine or stay-at-home lockdown. The U.S. now has more than 1,100,000 confirmed cases, and I think it's about 64,000 deaths due to the coronavirus. I'm preoccupied with small business because the U.S. economy has been dependent on it. I too have been dependent on it. And I see clearly that the country is losing its small business, and as a result its middle class, and as a result of that the political power to make things better for the 99%, including you and me. I view small business as 30 million businesses of all types, including real estate brokers, dentists, small and independent churches, solo law practitioners and small law firms, veterinarians, glazier company, auto part companies, cab and limousine drivers, small nonprofits, and the hundreds or thousands of other types of small business that keep the U.S. moving along. Small businesses can also be identified by their ownership, by persons who are less able to, and therefore do not make, sizable political contributions, so that the candidates for elective office are not worried about enacting anti-small business legislation because they won't lose any significant campaign contributions as a result anyway. You would think that organizations with millions of members, say for example the AARP, the American Association of Retired Persons, would provide the needed lobbying. But this has not in fact happened. The AARP assumes its members are retired from big business, the military, government service, college and universities and other nonprofits, and, oh yes, from small businesses that for the most part went out of business. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce purports to be the main lobby for small business, and even states in its website, and I'm quoting now, and I'll tell you when I end the quote, "Save small business. The Chamber is committed to mobilizing and maximizing the impact of the nation's response to support small businesses, their workers, and the families and communities that depend on them. Since 1912, and remember the Federal Reserve Act was about that time, 1913, we've been fighting for your business and looking out for your bottom line. We are your eyes and ears here in Washington. We listen to your needs and convey your message in the political arena, taking action on legislative issues that impact your business." What a crock. I'm continuing with a quote now later on in the website. "The U.S. Chamber of Commerce is the world's largest business organization, representing the interests of more than 3 million businesses of all sizes, sectors, and regions. Our members range from mom-and-pop shops and local chambers to leading industry associations and large corporations. They all share one thing. They count on the Chamber to be their voice in Washington, D.C." That's the end of quote now. This reminds me of an event taking place about 20 years ago when Amazon was just getting started in the business of selling books in competition with major bookstore retailers, Barnes & Noble and Borders. American Booksellers Association, the quote ABA unquote, the industry-wide trade association, was accepting members of all types, including the largest booksellers, that is Barnes & Noble and Borders, and was receiving important financial support from them. The ABA leadership, probably from complaining small book-selling members, saw that the major booksellers were getting huge discounts, unbelievably huge discounts from publishers, which enabled the major retailers to offer and sell books at substantially lower prices than the small bookseller members, which was putting these small bookseller members out of business. The ABA then took action. It terminated the memberships of the large bookseller chain stores, and in 1998 commenced a lawsuit against them for violation of the antitrust laws known as the Robinson-Patman Act, which made price discrimination illegal as to books and other goods. Later in 2001, I became involved by filing an antitrust action on behalf of a very small chain of 9 bookstores in North Carolina, centered around Raleigh. I am suggesting that the U.S. Chamber of Commerce needs to do the same as the ABA if it really wants to represent small business. Its representation from 1912 to the present has brought the U.S. to a public policy of discriminating against small businesses in many thousands of ways, irrespective of what the Chamber of Commerce has said or done. It's time for the Chamber of Commerce to eliminate its ties with and financial support from all but the small business interests, or see its 3 million members go to an organization that will in fact lobby for small business, and small business only. The country has had enough of token small business lobbying that is permitted by big business. We need the kind of lobbying that big business will despise and oppose vigorously. This may sound off the wall, but there may be a philanthropist or union out there which sees that the middle class is disappearing and would agree that a public policy favoring small business is needed, and that a small business lobby needs to be established and financed. Small businesses could probably be reached through paid advertising in the social media. I'm not going to say anything more other than to point out that starting a small business lobby seems to me to be vital for saving the economy and the middle class, and of course small businesses. Here are some main things the small business lobby should try to accomplish. 1. Enact legislation making the Sherman Act, which was enacted, the Sherman Antitrust Act, which was enacted in 1890, enforceable by small business, such as by requiring the Justice Department or Federal Trade Commission to finance or take over the litigation under rules that prevent token litigation. If the court should hold that the government's litigation was token or in bad faith, the sum of, say, $500,000 would immediately be available for the small business to proceed with a lawsuit, with the amount renewable by the court as needed by the small business to pursue the lawsuit. 2. Enact legislation which makes enforcement of the antitrust laws more effective in the federal courts, which, by the way, is the only set of courts allowed to handle the maintenance of a antitrust lawsuit, by reviewing the 50 or so adverse Supreme Court decisions and eliminating their effect by statutory amendment. The Supreme Court has been limiting the enforceability of the nation's antitrust laws, and it is time to restore antitrust to its original and intended enforceability with a lowering of hurdles and related costs. 3. Establish federally paid programs to teach individuals how to run a small business from the standpoint of staff functions, that is, the functions that are common to most small businesses, such as inventory management, taxes, payroll, telephone and computers, calendaring, To enable the small business owners to be free to do the subject of their businesses, such as sell real estate, give legal advice, install glass in automobiles, which will allow far greater profitability of small businesses and create 10 million high-paying jobs, paying $35 to $300 per hour for persons not wanting to own a small business, and do much for restoring the middle class in America and reduce the impact of monopolies. 4. Resolve student loan indebtedness equitably and permit bankruptcy to eliminate the debt entirely. 5. Make any deductions allowed for big business to be automatically available for small business, such as health care and lunch costs. 6. Provide money for small businesses needed to cover overhead costs of the business and the personal expenses which were paid for by the profits of the owner, to save the nation's small businesses, and do so as fast as possible to reduce the number of small businesses that will fail otherwise. 7. For a 10-year period, allow small businesses to pay a small percentage, such as 4 or 5% of their gross income, and give them an option to use a percentage more appropriate to their type of small business. This will save an enormous amount of time for the owners and others, and probably result in increased taxes, because it will free the business up to make money, and that would be more that would provide the base for the greater amount of overall taxes. 8. Make patent renewals automatic and at no cost for small business. 9. Amend the tax laws so that big business is rewarded for keeping jobs in the U.S. and penalized for moving jobs out of the U.S. Treaties with foreign countries may have to be changed to enable this to be done lawfully under U.S. law. 10. Establish federal programs that require federal purchasing from small business in relation to their comparative sales or income or employees or income tax payments, giving due credit for the higher rate of tax paid by small business. 11, that is, have a federal task force on having testing for all as soon as possible. And 12, enact a law that public policy favors small business, which could have some value in the courts. Well, I've said what I plan to say, and I'll say so long now until my next video.